started. I now call to order the Independent Redistricting Commission meeting of Feb 28, 2022. I will now conduct a roll call. Commissioner Aker,
Here.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Well, I've been informed Commissioner McAlern won't be present with us today. Next, Commissioner Jensen.
Here.
Vice Chair Agarwal.
Here.
Commissioner Baldwin.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Hogg.
Here.
Okay, awesome. Welcome to the Independent Redistricting Commission meeting. Public outreach regarding redistricting and this commission, as well as information on all IRC meetings, has been notified to public in many venues. They include a public notice published in Santa Clara Weekly on October 14, 2021, listing all meeting dates, as well as a notice was published on February 23rd, 2022, with all information of the commission intending to approve MAP 4A at tonight's meeting. The city's website has a web page dedicated to the Independent Redistricting Commission, which outlines the redistricting process, lists all meeting dates, and also provides information on how to request translation services if needed. The website also has flyers translated into English, Chinese, Spanish, and Vietnamese. There is an email address dedicated for inquiries and comments on the redistricting process. It is redistricting@santaclaraca.gov. This email will be monitored during the meetings for the comments. Flyers have also been provided at all public counters at City Hall, as well as distributed at previous citywide events. Meeting information has been sent out and will be continued to be sent out during the process via e-notify, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, and Instagram. Meeting agendas are posted to city's meeting page in advance of the meeting, as well as previous IRC meetings and presentations are available on city's meeting page, which is www.santaclara.registrar.com. Well, in today's meeting, we are going to discuss next step. In the last meeting, as a commission, we recommended MAP 4A with the majority vote. And in this meeting, we'll discuss the next steps. An email was sent to the commission this afternoon from Assistant City Attorney Elizabeth Klotz with the following items for discussion: draft IRC report and ordinance adopting MAP. This will be discussed under item 3 on our agenda today. Now we move on to the consent calendar. We have one item on the consent calendar, which is Independent Redistricting Commission meeting minutes of Jan 29, 2022. Do I have a motion and a second to approve this item? Commissioners, do I have a motion and a second to approve meeting minutes?
Motion to approve. This is Ken.
This is Eric Acker, second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Morris and Commissioner Aker. I will now take a roll call vote. Commissioner Aker,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Jensen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Agarwal,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Yes.
and a yes from me. Commissioner McAlern is not with us today. Is that good, staff?
Yes, the motion passes 6 yes votes.
Okay,
Thank you.
awesome. Well, now we move on to public presentations of our meeting. This part of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the council or authorities on any matter not on agenda, and that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city or authorities. The law does not permit action on or extended discussion of any item not on agenda except under special circumstances. The governing body or staff may briefly respond to statements made or question posed, and appropriate body may request staff to report back at a subsequent meeting. As a reminder, comments can be emailed to redistricting@santaclaraca.gov. If any member of the public would like to make any comments, you can raise your hands in Zoom. Staff, do we have any comments?
No, we don't have any comments in the email box or redistricting, and there are no hands raised.
Okay, Thank you, Elizabeth. Fantastic. We can now move on to the general business. We have 3 items on agenda today. Our first one is to review map 4A, which was approved by the commission, which was recommended by the commission. This map will be reviewed by the demographers, and there will be a commission discussion, and there will be a adoption of the final map. Demographers, will you please provide the presentation?
Certainly.
Thank you.
I am showing you the report that we sent last week, I believe it was, and we summarized the characteristics of Plan 4A after we'd finished our analysis. And the Map 4A changes city council boundaries in only 2 parts of the city. And the first part is some population and geographical area moved from District 2 to District 1. And this lists the boundaries: Highway 101, railroad tracks, San Tomas Expressway, and the city's western city limits. And Census 2020 counted 1,638 persons in this area. The shifting of people from one council district to another was necessary in order to equalize the Census 2020 populations of the 6 council districts. Then the second area moved was switched from District 4 to District 5. And this region is bounded by El Camino Real in the north, Homestead Road in the south, San Tomas Expressway, Madera Drive, Arroyo Drive, White Drive, Saratoga Creek as the eastern boundary, Lawrence Expressway, western boundary, and Saratoga Creek was changed to Saratoga Creek, Kylie Boulevard, and Homestead. And Census 2020 counted 572 persons in this area. I will now show you an overview map and 2 detail maps and a map that shows those 2 areas that I just described, and then a data table. Here is an overview map of Plan 4A. The boundaries are fairly clean between districts 1 and 2. Very, very clean boundary. Major Street, which is San Tomas Expressway, and Montague Expressway, sorry. And having a little trouble showing you what I want to. Okay, here we go. And so that's the boundary I just described. Area 2, Council District 2 has boundary here and here. The outer boundaries of the city are shown as well. And the outer boundaries of trustee area, Council District 2, sorry, we're working with a lot of school districts. Montague Expressway, San Tomas Expressway, the railroad tracks, and then Bowers Avenue and El Camino. And this is also El Camino, I think, or an extension of it. I can't remember. Council District 3, this is the city limits all around this part of the north and the western boundaries of District 3. This boundary is El Camino Real. This is, again, is Bowers Avenue, and this is Lawrence Expressway. Very recognizable boundaries. District 4, bounded in the north by El Camino Real, in the west by Lawrence Expressway, in the south by Prune Ridge Avenue, then Kylie Boulevard, Saratoga Creek, and, sorry, Foley Avenue. This is an unincorporated enclave within the city limits. It has some interesting history, I think, but I'm afraid I can't tell you exactly what it is. District 5, northern boundary, El Camino Real, and its extension. Or maybe those are the
Dr.
train
Goblet,
tracks.
those are the train tracks. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Here, I just recognize that. Thanks. And then I just described this boundary, the southern boundary of Council District 5, Homestead Road, Scott Boulevard, and Newhall Street. Again, very recognizable. And finally, in the south, we have Council District 6, and its boundary on the west and south and east are the city limits. This is Prune Ridge Avenue, Kylie Boulevard, Homestead Road, and Scott Boulevard. So this is a very clean looking map, in my opinion, at least. Now, this next slide shows the city's neighborhoods as identified by oh dear, next door neighborhoods, yes. And these neighborhoods are color shaded. Some areas are not organized neighborhoods, perhaps because they have no residents or very few. But we have Montague neighborhood intact in District 2, Miraval, Moreland, Rivermark, KB Toscana, Los Arboles, Primavera, 49ers Backdoor, Lake Santa Clara, Lakeshore Drive, Agnew Road, and Old Bassett Station. This big purple area is called Oakmead. So none of the neighborhoods identified by next door are split. Now in the south, we have many more neighborhoods. And again, there are very few neighborhoods split between council districts. Lawrence and El Camino is divided. The south part of that neighborhood south of El Camino Real is in District 4. And Central Santa Clara neighborhood, this piece of it southeast of Saratoga Creek is in District 5. But otherwise, the next door neighborhoods, which I think are pretty widely recognized, are not divided between council districts. And neighborhoods sometimes are considered to be communities of interest, and cities are especially encouraged by recent law, California state laws, to keep communities of interest intact. So I believe this plan does it as well as any plan possibly could. Now this map shows the two areas that change from the current council districts to the Plan 4A districts. This area is moved from District 2 into District 1 in order to add population to District 1, which was short because, possibly partly because when the current plan was adopted, there was expected to be more population growth than actually occurred in the northern part of the city. Then in the south, sorry, it's hard to remember how to zoom in Acrobat. Anyway, these areas are moved from District 4 into District 5 again to balance the populations. And this particular part of the boundary improves upon the 2018 boundary because the streets that are the limits for this area where 4 and 5 come together very clearly defined. And this is 572 people shifted again from District 4 to District 5. And up here we have the 1,638 people shifted from District 2 to District 1. Very little of this area is actually populated. Some of it is industrial. And finally, here is the fully detailed data for Plan 4A. The total deviation of this plan, and that's the range between most and least populous council districts in Plan 4A, is 7.1% of the total ideal district population. Each council district ought to have 1/6 of the city's total population, 2020 total population. And the deviation, the spread between the most And the least populous districts in this plan is 1,507 people, which is 7.1% of this ideal. So this is well below the presumptive 10% maximum permitted deviation. And that is what I have to show you. I can reshare as needed if you have questions. I don't know if the agenda, what's next on the agenda, whether it's questions or discussion or comments.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Gopaji. At this point, I would like to welcome any comments from the commissioners, or comments or questions. Well, okay. If not, we can ask the members of the public if they have any comments or questions regarding the recommended map 4A.
We have not received any emails and we do not have any hands raised from the public.
Well, okay, thank you. Now the next question is for staff and the demographers. Since our first item on the agenda was review of the map commission discussion and adoption of final map. Since we don't have any comments or questions, does that mean that the map is automatically adopted?
You must vote.
Okay,
Liz
Yeah.
can tell you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we need to make a motion from one of the commissioners to adopt the final map.
mhm,
And there needs to be a second and a vote.
okay,
Okay, so
okay. And should we do it now or should we do it later after the second agenda item where city attorney Liz Klotz is going to do a presentation?
I think it's better to do it now because
Mhm.
my report is in anticipation of a map being adopted. So if you adopt the map, then I think we can then go into the discussion of how we want to report to council on the process. So, and that's what I'll go into.
Okay, well, then do I have a motion and a second to adopt map 4A?
yes, this is Commissioner Acker. I make a motion that we adopt map 4A as our final recommendation. Is it a recommendation or a final,
As your final, as the final map.
as the final map?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Eaker. Do I have a second?
I, Vice Chair Agarwal, second the motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Agarwal. Well, I guess the motion is, no, we are, now I take a roll call, right? I will roll call. Wait, yeah, the last meeting and I'm still getting used to the motion system. Well, Commissioner Aker,
Yes,
Commissioner Morris. Commissioner Morris,
Yes, yes,
thank you. Commissioner Jensen,
yes,
Vice Chair Agarwal,
Yes,
Commissioner Baldwin,
yes,
and a yes from me. I think the motion passes with 6 votes.
Correct, yes.
Awesome. Congratulations, everyone. And with that, we can move on to our second item on agenda, where Assistant City Attorney Liz Klotz will review draft report for the council. Can you please provide us the presentation?
Sure. So what I am sharing, I apologize for the lateness in getting the draft report to you. But what we need to do is go back to council. I think we scheduled it for March 22nd, and they need to take an administrative action to amend the ordinance or to adopt a new ordinance with the new map. And so that's what we're going to take to council. And so in addition to doing that, we wanted the Independent Redistricting Commission to come and do a presentation and summarize kind of the work that you've done over the last several months. And so I kind of sketched some information out that I thought would be, information that's needed. And what I would like is additional input from the commission on any additional information that you think might be useful or just, additional work that you would like to demonstrate that was done by the commission. Here is the background section. Can everyone see it or is it too small?
I don't see anything.
You're not sharing your screen, Liz.
Oh, I'm not sharing.
Mhm.
You see anything? No?
No.
We see you.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
it's showing that I'm sharing, but let me get out of share. Okay. Do you see anything now?
Yes. Yes.
There we go.
Okay. So here's the draft report. The background section just kind of summarizes the requirements for the redistricting process. So I kind of generally went over the law, the criteria that the commission considered, and the fact that the commission approved the formation of an independent redistricting commission to make the decision on adopting that final map. So this is, I'll go over the whole report and then you can let me know if there's anything else you would like to include. In the discussion section, I'd like to highlight our demographers' work of Lepkoff and Gobele. So I highlighted some of the work that they've done. And then we wanted to talk about all the public notices and outreach that the city and the commission has done to kind of engage the public, the number of meetings, the evening meetings, and the public outreach that we've kind of done. You can see I've left some spaces that I need to insert some additional information, and those will be inserted later. And then I also went into a recap of the public hearings. So after today, we'll have held 6 public hearings. We were required to hold 4. So I think we've done a lot to kind of allow for that public engagement to occur. Then we talk about the last February 10th meeting is when we kind of narrowed down those 10 maps down to 1 map. And then today, which you just did, and I will update, is that we adopted the final map, or the commission adopted the final map. So I'll update this section to reflect that final map. Now, this section here is just a table that summarizes all of the work that the commission and actions that you took over the last several months. So I go through each date and some of the actions that were taken at each of these meetings. And then finally, we explained that we've adopted a map and that the commission or the city council will need to adopt an ordinance to update the existing district map with the newly adopted council district map. And then I have attached an ordinance. So let me see if this will share. Do you see the ordinance now?
Yes.
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 Okay. So this is a draft ordinance. It's pretty simple. The recitals kind of talk about our obligations under redistricting. It discusses the public hearings that we've held. And then it also discusses the final public hearing that we held tonight to adopt the map. So that'll be updated. And then this is the language in the ordinance, basically recognizing that beginning in November 2022, that the districts will be reflected by the new map that was adopted today. So I don't know if I should keep the report open, or do we want to just have a discussion about any other items that we might want to include in the report?
Yeah, it will be great if you can keep it open, because I see that we have a few questions. Hossam, do you want to go ahead? I see your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. Liz, I think it would be helpful for the benefit of the public as they're attending and hearing the report to council in the public city council meeting, to understand and know that a lot of the outreach materials was provided in multiple languages. I know you have some commentary if you scroll to the public notices and outreach section,
Yeah.
about seeking live translation services, but I think it would just be helpful in the text in which you talk about how there was e-comment, city calendar alerts, etc., that it was done also in multiple languages.
Yeah, let me scroll there. Yeah, so I can expand on that section on additional language.
A lot of really good work was done to reach as many people as possible, and I think we should celebrate that. That's the first thing. And the second thing that I'm wondering also is, there should probably be somewhere either in the council's action or with this commission's action to provide or to remit the new map to the registrar of voters. I don't see any of that reference here.
Well, Yeah, so the map, I guess I could add it into,
Who does it? Will this commission do it? Will staff do it? Will the city council refer it to the
yes,
registrar?
well, I think the assistant city clerk will do that. In the ordinance, I did allow language, I guess, where city staff, including the retained demographer, will work with the registrar of voters during input to give them some flexibility if we need to make change, like technical changes.
Okay.
So I guess I can put in the action in the report that the city clerk, the assistant or the city clerk will submit this to the registrar of voters.
Got it.
Yeah, so
I think that would be important.
okay.
Also, one final comment. This report, I believe, is coming from the commission, right? So, and Chair Marashi would be presenting it. I'm seeing nods. Or Chair Marashi, if you're not comfortable, maybe you'll find somebody on the commission to present it, but it's not going to be presented by myself or staff, is my understanding. So I would also suggest at the way bottom, I know this is from the template, but we would say we would change the from staff to indicate that the chair
Okay.
is chair and the commissioners
Okay.
are making the presentation, or this report is coming from them.
Okay, so I have this Commissioner Acker. I have a question. It says that the fiscal impact that the staff estimates cost of redistricting process to be approximately $100,000. Can we break that out and see how that $100,000 is spent?
I would have to go back to staff for that, but we can get that additional information, but it's really to cover our demographers' costs.
Yeah, so this, just to clarify, and I think we should probably clarify it, the changes to the map is not what we're estimating to be $100,000, like services or whatnot. It's more the process of redistricting cost about $100,000 to retain the demographer.
Yeah, and to publicize, and are there other costs that were part of that 100,000? The demographers, what are the other costs?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. We can list those out specifically.
Rena, is this an additional 100,000, or is this what it cost us up to date?
This is what it's cost up to date. This is what has been allocated. It's not a new cost that hasn't already been anticipated or budgeted. So I think we just need to be more clear about that the city budgeted X, $100,000 to retain a demographer, and
It
the
might,
cost of,
I think it's confusing to include it here, because typically, I mean, that would have already been included in the first report to council when we were forming the commission and such. So I don't know if including it in this report is relevant, because we're not spending that money again. It's already been spent.
Okay, we can remove that language in there and say there's no fiscal impact with the adoption of the ordinance, essentially was what we're doing. So
Right.
Commissioner Jensen?
I think the report is great. I think it's super clear. The one thing I would argue is you put that we looked at 10 maps, and I would argue that we have a couple point ones and an A here and an A there.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the total number would be. Maybe it's around like 13 or 14, but I would argue that those are separate maps that we evaluated. And I think that's my only comment on the report. I think it's a great report. And then the second thing I want to just encourage the chair to present to council. I think the commission should all be there, but I think Chair Masher, you've done such a good job shepherding us through this that I think you should feel confident to present to the council.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be happy to present. Rena, I see your hand raised.
yeah. Liz, do we mention social media for outreach? Because I know we did social media. I just want to, and we can go back and just, because I'm sure people want to know that we used modern outreach techniques as well.
We can expand that section and then talk about the exact ways we pushed it out on social media and on TV as well. With the meetings were all available that way, so we can expand on that.
Yeah, and I know Elizabeth and the communications team have good records of the many times we put it out on the city's venues.
Okay, great.
Commissioner Baldwin?
At a couple of points in the report, it talks about communities of interest. And in the regulations, it mentions local neighborhoods and communities of interest. Like in the bullets section on the first page, the third bullet talks about, if you scroll up to that, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what I'm talking about. Yeah, it says keeping the geographic integrity by minimizing the division of community of interest, but it's also minimizing the division of local neighborhoods and communities of interest. So I think especially since our borders were a lot of times determined by the local neighborhoods more than communities of interest, I think it'd be good to put in local neighborhoods and communities of interest.
Okay, and Commissioner, are you suggesting it in that bullet or
in that bullet, and also in the bottom of page 2, you make a reference to communities of interest, and I think that would also benefit from mentioning local neighborhoods and communities of interest. Because like I said, we changed the borders, we made determinations based on local neighborhoods more than communities of interest.
Okay, I can make those changes.
Great.
Any other comments?
Not from me.
Okay. Okay, if there are no other comments, I have a few questions. So how does this work? Will this report be emailed to the council before, or 22nd March will be the first time where they are going to see this for the first time?
We need to finalize it, I believe, by the 17th. So that's going to be posted on the 18th, and that's when the council will see the report and the ordinance.
Okay, so when we are going to present this to the council on 22nd, we do not necessarily have to cover all the bullet points in the report, or we can just choose to pick up few things and highlight them during the presentation, right?
Yep, that's correct. The report is technically usually more comprehensive, kind of the whole process. It allows the public to really understand as well of everything that we've done here. So the presentation can be a lot shorter and just kind of briefly highlight on some of these topics.
Okay, yeah, thank you for clarifying. And is this meeting on 22nd dedicated to the redistricting presentation, or is this part of a big meeting?
It's a regular city council meeting, so it would be part of the standard agenda. It would be one of the items on the agenda.
Okay, do we have any time limit that is?
We can, I don't know, Rena, maybe we can request the mayor to put a time certain for this item. I know the meetings have been pretty jam-packed, and it's very hard to predict when certain items might be discussed, just because discussions may go longer or shorter, and it's unpredictable. So maybe when it's being presented to the mayor who chairs the meeting, that she set some sort of a time certain, or maybe pull it out of order so that the commission can make the presentation and go on with their evenings.
Yeah, even I thought that it is going to be a part of a big meeting, and I have restricted my presentation to be of a very short duration, and it is quick. So
and just because I think your question was more about how much time are you allotted?
Yeah.
I mean, I think typically when people present, it's about 10 minutes or under, but I feel like, if you need more time than that, please, Chair, let me know, and I can talk about that to those who are putting the agenda together. And, if we need to make a special request, this is a unique opportunity. Liz, did you want to comment on that?
No, I was just going to say, if we're done discussing the report, we might not want to move to the next agenda item, because it really, I think, has to do with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the logistics.
Yeah, so if we have no more comments from the council, are there any public comments just on this item or none, then we can move forward to the next item.
Okay, do we have any public comments?
We don't have any hands raised. Let me just check the email. We do not have any emails.
A quick request to Assistant City Attorney. Could you explain in layman's term what exactly is ordinance? And
Okay, so we have an ordinance code and it's codified by the city. And so it's basically a regulation of the city that the city has to follow. So in order for, and once the ordinance is read into adopted by the council, introduced to the council, then it gets to be published in the newspaper so the public's aware that an ordinance is being adopted. And then it won't be adopted until 2 weeks later to allow another public hearing. And that public hearing is more administrative to allow for public comment. You don't need to come back and present or anything. And at that point, then the ordinance, when the council adopts it, would be formally adopted and effective 30 days later. So, but the ordinance is just the formal codification of this regulation, which is basically adoption of this map.
okay, yeah, thank you for clarifying that. So just to make it clear, the draft IRC report is being presented by the commission. It is on behalf of the commission that we are going to submit it to the council, whereas council is from the city attorney, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
So the IRC report, which we saw earlier, it is
Yeah.
basically from the commissioners. So basically we can look into this report, and if commissioners suggest any changes, this report can be changed.
Yes, but
Basically, they are the owners of this report, whereas who is the owner of the ordinance? It is the
It's still coming from you. It's still coming from you,
is
but
still
I
coming
mean,
from us.
yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
but
but
you have the assistance of the city attorney to office to write it in the proper format. But certainly, like if you look at the ordinance and you see something in there that doesn't reflect the map and the discussion that you've had up till now, you know, call it out. It's basically all the legalese is done on your behalf, but you'll present it. It's coming from you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. So
Liz,
with
did I get that right?
no, that's correct. I just want to make sure I'm able to review it just to make sure we have an ordinance that'll be effective. So if you do make changes, please, you know, if you're
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, sorry, Liz, any changes should be discussed here, right? Like we're not making changes offline.
So I think what Shruti is trying to say is they may want to have a committee work on this. So the whole commission
Got it.
work on this after this, right? If you want to work on a presentation for the 22nd, it will either need to be a designated individual or less than a quorum. So three of you, up to three of you can work together on a presentation to go to council. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. With that, I just wanted to comment that commissioners, both these documents are from us. And I know that you only got chance to look at it this afternoon. So all the commissioners may not have gotten enough time to look through it. So since it has been established that we need to finalize this by March 17th, if you all get a chance to take a look at it and find anything and want any changes, feel free to email the staff so that we can make the necessary changes. That is what I wanted to bring up.
That's fine.
Okay, awesome. Again, I welcome any questions or comments from the public or the commissioners. If not, we can move on to our last item on agenda, which is logistics of presentation to mayor and the council on March 22nd.
Sorry, do you need to take a motion on approving the I think this is a question to Liz, our assistant city attorney. Do they need to take a motion on approving the draft report and associated ordinance with potential changes offline, or they're just going to work on that?
Yeah, I think they're just going to work on it. I think we're
okay.
Bring it forward. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
I just wanted direction from them, which I got to.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, we will discuss logistics of presentation to mayor and the council. So I have prepared a very rough presentation, and I'd like to discuss this presentation with the commissioners so that we can update it on the go. This is nowhere finalized. This is what I had in mind when we present. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. The way I wanted to go with this presentation was, okay, to clear first thing, I'm happy to present this, but if any of the commissioners want to explain or take a part of the presentation and are willing to present something, please come ahead. I'll be happy to have give chance to everyone who is willing to present. Well, with that, I'll share what I have in mind. Initially, we can introduce the mayor and the council to the independent commission, who all were in the commission. And ideally, I would really like if we have a small picture of everyone so that there is a visual representation of who was in the commission. And it will be fun only if everyone is able to provide. If not everyone is comfortable providing that picture, we can just go ahead with the name. So initially we can explain that this is the commission, all the representatives of the districts who were present and who took the final decision. Then I want to thank the demographers, city staff, and members of the public who participated and helped the commission to reach a final map. And I was able to add names of the people who were involved. Please let me know if I'm missing anyone. Just a minute, something went blank. Okay. So here I would like to thank the demographers who did a great job in providing us all the information and reviewing and summarizing all the maps. The city staff who has been super duper helpful and supporting us and managing all the meetings. And I also mentioned the IT staff because everything was virtual and I believe they were very important. And today I thought that we should also recognize the members of the public who submitted some plans. I definitely know Diane Harrison, and I believe there was at least one more person who did submit the map, but I don't remember the name. So if these members of the public agree to have their names added, I would like to do that too. Any questions so far? Okay. If not, then
Chair Marashi, I see one member of the public did
Yes.
raise her hand.
Yes.
And if there were, I know this, it's Diane who's raised her hand.
Mhm.
If there are others who've also submitted maps, maybe we can ask city staff to reach out to them on email and see if they're comfortable with their name being published as well. That's maybe something we can do if they're not in the call today.
yeah.
Yes, I can work with Shruti on that, and then I will unmute Diane Harrison.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're welcome to use my name. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, thank
That's
you so
all.
much, Diane. Okay, awesome.
Thank you, Diane.
And I love having pictures and visual representation of everything. So if demographers and city staff are happy to provide their small pictures, it will be great to have that too, so that everyone is recognized for their work. And next, I'm thinking I picked this up from the report which Assistant City Attorney Liz Klotz created and shared with us earlier. So basically this will be updated after this meeting. Basically we'll show the summary of all the meetings and share with the mayor and the commissioners that these are the number of meetings that we have had. And in each meetings, these things were done. And based on X number of maps, we were able to finalize one single map on Feb 10th and it was adopted on Feb 28th. Well, I see Dr. Gopale's hand raised. Dr. Gopale, do you want to go ahead and share what you want to say?
Sorry, I was doing something else, looking at my list of the different plans, and I can supply a list of the plans that we reviewed, you reviewed during the course of your work. And I have the name of the other member of the public who submitted a plan. So I can email that to you and the city staff fairly soon.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, I can move ahead. After the summary, what I can do is that I'm thinking of sharing the list of criteria which the commission was able to finalize to come to a new city map, must-haves and nice-to-haves, and just mention these, and then finally show the adopted map. Here there will be a link to the high definition proposed map. And at this point, my question is for the city staff, how much in detail do we need to explain the new map?
I would suggest it. I think what Dr. Gobele had shared earlier in this meeting that showed the view of map 4A, explaining the boundaries, and then and I know she did it in a little bit more of a quicker fashion because obviously we're all familiar with that, but I would definitely share details of it to the council, but also keep in mind that you're going to have a lot of people in the public watching the city council meeting. And so this is also just an opportunity to educate them as to what changes are coming, right? And if they're looking at their districts and saying, okay, well, did I move from one district to the next? Where am I now? And what's changed? And so they get to see all that. It might even be worthwhile to throw up the detailed slide that had the demographic numbers. Also one of the slides that Dr. Gobele shared today, to kind of show and represent that A, the diversity in the city, and B, that you're respecting and maintaining that diversity with the district boundaries, like you're not diluting protected classes or members of protected classes. So I would definitely suggest that you do go into, obviously you're not going to go into detail on all 13 or 14 maps, just focus on the map that was adopted. It's not a meeting to debate which map is going to be selected. It's already done. You guys have selected it. Even up till now, it's been selected. So it's mostly is an educational forum so that people can understand. Of course, it's your meeting, and however long or short you want to spend talking about it. But I do think it's a good opportunity to share that information with the public.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was wondering, this is open for discussion. Will it be a good idea if demographers do a small presentation here and talk more about the map like they did in today's meeting?
We'd be happy to do it.
Okay, okay. Commissioners, any thoughts? Or is there anyone who would like to present?
Hi, this is Commissioner Morris, Ken. I think I raised my hand. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my internet on my laptop. So I'm on my phone, actually. So I don't know whether my hand raise has been seen, but that's fine. I just wanted to comment on the presentation, Chair Marashi, because I think your general, the presentation is really good. The format or the framework is really good. And I like the fact that you have highlighted everyone that had to be thanked. And we are definitely thankful to the city staff and the demographers for having helped us in such a patient fashion, because we're all novices to this. The only comment that I had was on slide 4. Slide 4 looks absolutely extremely busy. I don't know whether in a short period of 10 minutes, this slide is going to get any attention or will convey anything to anybody, except for those who know about what has been happening. So I will propose that this slide be, and in any case, the slide is being presented in the ordinance or in some other format as well. So I would actually suggest that this slide be made less crowded by being more creative, that you can probably just add things like, we had, there's 10 meetings, 25 hours of deliberation. So basically we're throwing up some numbers just to highlight the fact that this has been highlighted, this has been debated, there's meetings. It doesn't really matter what date we met. Who would really matter about what? Nobody cares about those dates. So all I'm saying is that, if this is presented in a different manner and made this slide lighter, that'll have more impact on, and people will actually visualize it better than the way it is being presented right now. And that's my only comment.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that feedback. And that is definitely a great feedback. I definitely agree with you that the action items can be one-liners, because in each meeting there was only one or two major things that happened. We can just highlight that. How about that?
I even think that, so even those action items are kind of redundant right now, because we've come to a conclusion right now. If we had not come to a conclusion, and that we are doing a postmortem of this, then those action items become very relevant. But now we have a output, we have a map. So why would we be interested in action items of each meeting? It doesn't have, to me, it doesn't have any relevance.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. Demographer Gopale.
Yes, thank you. The purpose of your presentation isn't just to show the council the map that you've adopted. You need to be educating members of the public about the process as well. So typically we do include detailed slides like this in our presentations, even at the end of the process, just so members of the public could say, oh, wow, what a lot of work they did. And look at all these things they did. I'm sorry I didn't tune in sooner, or something like that. Because there will be critics of the process no matter what. Why didn't I know this was happening? We hear from people. In any event, you could summarize this if you want, but somewhere, well, I would suggest not summarizing. I know it's busy, and so is our formatted data for Plan 4A, but it does show due diligence, as City Clerk Pagog was telling us about some of the details that might be omitted. It's not a detail that should be omitted, but it is awfully detailed. I certainly agree with that point, but there's more than one purpose for this presentation.
Thank you for those comments, Dr. Gopale. That was exactly my thought process behind adding this, that is to show the process. But I also agree with Commissioner Morris about it being too cluttered. Well, any City Clerk Hosam?
Yeah, let me also share some context on like how these council meetings typically go. And I think that'll help give the framework for you guys to decide what level of detail to include in the slides in the presentation and what level of detail to exclude. So you'll have the report to council, the ordinance is there as well. Typically, when the council meetings are happening, nobody is sharing on the screen the report itself. So the report goes to the council and to the public. It actually just gets published to everybody. And the council gets a copy. The public can access the copy before the meeting, right? So that's why the deadline is not the 22nd, which is the meeting itself. The deadline to complete everything is 17th so that it can get published. The council will read the packet. The packet typically has like 500 pages in it. And council members, whatever algorithm they use to get through the 500 pages in an efficient way, they figure out what they skim it, they read every page, who knows, right? Members of the public typically don't read the 500 pages either, right? Like they will go to the topic that they're interested in. Maybe they'll go to the topic they're interested in before the meeting and read the report. Otherwise, they'll just wait for the presentation in the meeting. So if you're going to go with the lowest common denominator here, you should expect that when it's your turn to present this topic, you're not going to go and just present the report to council PDF. That typically doesn't happen. So what you really want to do is in your slides here, you're giving the Cliff Notes version or the summary version of what are the things that you want to call out from your report to council to show. And as Dr. Gopale said, you're really using this also double dipping on the opportunity to educate the community about the entire process. Now you have, let's say 10 minutes to make the presentation. You want to cover the map, right? But you can also spend some of that time to say, hey, look, and it's there in the first page of the report to council. Like this happens every 10 years when the census, you're giving the Cliff Notes version or the TLDR version of all the meetings that you've had and the hours that you've had up until now, right? So really think about when you're crafting this presentation, the first half of it is educating just on the process and everything that's gone up until. The second half of it is talking about the map itself, right? And you're not going to pull up the report to council. In your slides, though, it's totally cool, or even in your verbal presentation, to refer back to the report to council and say, as you've seen in the report to council, blah, 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 right? And so that way people are like, oh, that, okay, let me now pull that page up and just, see what they're referring to. But really, like, even if you're like on this slide that you have sharing here, you can summarize it, but you can also just leave it screenshotted from or copied from the report and say, here's an extraction from the report to council. You can go take a look and read it. I'm not going to spend much time on the slide, but it's just to let you know that we've had 6 hearings when the minimum requirement was 4. So we really did a lot of outreach. And I like Commissioner Morse's idea. We spent whatever collective, 1,000 hours on this. Next slide, right? And then you'd basically just move on. But you're still using it as an opportunity to educate the public. Look at all the work that's been in here. This is the process. There are some legal requirements for the process. We went above and beyond the legal requirements, and we deliberated 13 maps, 14 maps, blah, blah, blah. Here's the final map. Let's go into detail on that map. So that's just kind of giving you all an idea of the council meetings, like the format, who's presenting what gets presented on the slides, and really what the opportunity is of the presentation itself and what you're trying to achieve with it.
Thank you so much for those comments. Really helpful. Commissioner Jensen?
I was just going to suggest from the staff presentations throughout this process, there have been a couple slides that I keep going back to that have been really educational. And I'm thinking of if this presentation part of it is educating the public on what redistricting is and why we do it. There's one slide that staff has used in the past that is what is redistricting, and I thought gives a really helpful definition. So I think adding that one in might be helpful to just kind of ground folks who are coming into this process for the first time. And then the second one was the prioritization criteria from the Fair Maps Act, because I think that gives a level of like complexity of the analysis and how difficult this thing is to do. And I think it steps through like the 7 prioritized lenses, or what, I can't remember what we call them, from the Fair Maps Act. So if staff could send maybe those slides that we've had from the past, or I think I can probably even send you a screenshot from the PDF, whatever is easiest for you.
Yeah, I already have screenshots of those slides, so I can pick them up. Well, I can also send you the presentation before the 22nd or before 17th, so that we are on the same page about which slides we are talking about.
I think, sorry, just to interrupt here, like, you don't need to use screenshots. If we have the original
I-
files, we can share them so that you can copy them.
I can supply them too, because those were our slides.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, the only reason for using the screenshots is that we don't have to switch between different files and folders as we are sharing the screen.
Well, these are PowerPoint slides already.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
You can get them and then do what you want with them. If you want to screenshot it, copy it, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, sounds good. Reena?
Yeah, I think that Commissioner Jensen was going to make some of the points I made about just a little bit of background on the redistricting process and how that would be really helpful. The 2 things that I think are really critical for people to understand is timing, like, why are we doing this? The census data coming out, and that we knew we had to change the maps because we had a 10% deviation. So it's not like the commission had the choice of keeping the district boundaries the same. I think those are 2 important things to kind of make sure people understand from the beginning.
Right. Very good. Very good points.
Yeah, great points. Yeah, thank you so much for all the comments. Any more comments from other commissioners or the members of the public?
Oh, I'm sorry. I do have a question a little bit about, and Hossam and Liz, if you can help me here, because it is sort of maybe more in our wheelhouse to understand. So this meeting, when Chair Marashi gives her presentation, is it expected that the council or members of the public may be asking questions for clarification of her? Just want her to feel prepared in terms of what that experience is going to be like.
Yeah, I mean, that's a definite possibility that the city council will ask questions. The public really can't ask questions of her unless the mayor directs the question to her. But I'll be there to help support. I think Hussam will probably be there to support. And then I'm not sure if, did we say that Dr. Gobele would be there, or just that she was going to help provide the information?
I think it would be helpful if we demographers presented the information.
Yeah.
Because perhaps we know the right vocabulary to use, among other things.
Yeah, so we'll be there to support any questions that she may not be comfortable responding to.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I'd also like to welcome any comments or questions from the public. If they want to suggest any things that they think might be useful for the public during the presentation, your comments are welcome.
We don't have any comments from the public.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll do.
Just to level set from what Rena was saying, by the way, I don't suspect that the nature of questions that you're going to get are going to be, because again, this is not that meeting is not a meeting to debate and discuss the maps, right? But to level set, they may ask, hey, did you consider X or Y or Z? Or how did you handle one certain thing or another, right? And so a lot of the questioning and the answers that you'll likely provide is basically just recapping and summarizing what this commission deliberated about, right? Yes, we discussed this. We actually had a few maps, even some submitted by the public, that really try to emphasize one of the criterias over another, right? I know there was some particular maps that were really trying to see how we could create districts that had higher percentage of Hispanic representation, right? So like those types of questions might come up and discuss, you just be prepared to discuss, hey, what did the commission go through and deliberate on? And how those discussions materialized into the final map that you guys approved. So I don't suspect that the questions that you're going to get are going to be necessarily challenging you on the map. And at the end of the day, you're an independent redistricting commission. What you've decided is what's going to be, what you've already decided earlier this meeting is what's going to be adopted. So it's not really, at this point, the hearings are, well, by the time the meeting's over, the hearings would have been completed.
Yeah, well, thank you. I just hope they don't ask too specific questions because to be honest, I don't remember the nitty-gritties and all the small points that we discussed, especially because we have been having these meetings since September.
Yeah, so I mean, as the chair of the commission, you can also feel free to call on anybody from staff or Dr. Gobele to help. But you also, all the commissioners that will be there, certainly you can call on any one of them to chime in, and they'll be there in the meeting and can raise their hand if they want to respond to something. So you have the support of everybody that's been involved in this process, so you're not alone. And others may be able to provide color commentary that would be useful in answering certain questions or another. So
okay, yeah, thank you.
And sorry, just in terms of a little bit of logistics, because we've been only meeting in meetings that are for this sole intended purpose, right? So a city council meeting will have number of items. Individuals will stay in the audience until it is time to actually have that item heard. At that point in time, our city clerk staff will move people and promote them to panelists. So I just want people to be aware that, you'll be kind of hanging out in the audience until it's time for the item, and that you want to accept that, because we have this sometimes happen where we try and promote people, but there's something that you have to do in Zoom to accept the promotion to move up. So just I feel like we need to talk about those details because we won't really have an opportunity again. So just wanted you to know that this meeting, it's not like you'll be a panelist from the moment that council meeting begins.
Yeah.
quick
Thank
question. Do we know, is this meeting remote only or 22nd or May or March meeting?
We are not certain right now. So maybe by the March 8th meeting, we'll have better idea. We have a meeting next Tuesday. And they're going to potentially take action on continuing with virtual meetings. So by March 8th, we should know for certain what the March 22nd meeting will be like.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will quickly recap the presentation and ask a few questions as I go ahead. Well, the first, initially, when we present, I'll be talking about what exactly is redistricting, why are we doing that, and include few slides related to that and the Fair Maps Act. And after that, I'll talk about the independent commissions and the representatives of each districts, and how the process works and why do we have at-large city-wide member, a representative. So I'll do that, and after that I'll be thanking demographers, Santa Clara city staff, and members of the public. Is there anyone that I'm missing on this slide? If you realize it at later point in time, please email me. I'll be happy to add people. And the way I have written the names here is that this is just based on the district number, and this is alphabetical. So I did not take into consideration the position the person holds. Is that all right? Yes, particular. Yes,
just a question to Rena or Elizabeth, if you know the answer. I know our IT staff and comm staff, they do a ton of work. So I typically I don't like it when they're all just lumped in in one word as IT staff. They all have names and they're people. So I don't know if they're and they're great people, by the way. I don't know if it's been the same consistent group of folks that have been doing like the live streaming and Zoom. So maybe we can just provide those names to Chair Marashi. I think they deserve that recognition as well, not just as IT staff, but as real people.
Yeah, we can do that, definitely. We'll get the names to you.
And I know Chair Marashi didn't intend that. She just didn't know their
Yeah,
names.
right.
So that's why I'm suggesting if we can provide those names. Yeah.
Okay, I'd be happy to add that. And again, a quick question here. Are the commissioners happy to provide their pictures here? So is there anyone who is not willing to provide picture? If we even have one, I'll just scrap the idea of having pictures there.
You can actually go and look at the previous recordings and snag a picture from there itself.
Yeah, but I will need their permission.
I know.
to do this business.
Yes.
Okay, I believe since nobody's saying no, I'm hoping that I get a few emails in a couple of days with your pictures that you would like to have here.
So will we be sent it to the staff or to you directly? Because there is that the act still comes into play, right?
How should that work, city staff? If
I think we can do it either way. Liz, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm happy if you want to send it to me, Elizabeth.
Go ahead and send it. I mean, you're not really taking or discussing an item with your photo, but go ahead and just send them to Elizabeth and she can coordinate that for you, Shruti.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. What I can do is that I'll send the Google Drive link to Elizabeth, and everyone can just add their pictures in that drive. So I have a folder with all the pictures. It will be easier for me to edit instead of having one picture in one email. Does that make sense? Okay, I guess it does. Okay. And same with the demographers and the city staff. I would love their pictures too. And members of the public. I know Dan is happy to have her name and will know the other members of the public who provided the maps. I'll be adding that. Yeah, based on all the feedback that I have received, I will keep something similar looking, a summary kind of table here, but I will make it less cluttered. That is what I would say right now. And once I finalize the presentation, I'll be emailing it to all the commissioners so that they can see that and provide their comments. Okay, list of criteria that has been covered. And when I talk about adopted map, I'll quickly talk about the map 4A and mention that out of X number of maps, we reviewed them and finally came up with map 4A. And demographers have agreed to review it for us. So demographers can present it at this point. So after that review, how should we be ending this presentation?
You would want a slide at the end with your call to action for the council. So you would basically just whatever is in the report to council, copy paste the recommendation. And then you would say council, the recommendation here is, and just you can just literally copy paste it. Approval of the introduction of an ordinance adopting a new city council district map, describing the district boundaries for the city of Santa Clara's by district elections. Just copy whatever is in the final report to council on the slide. That way it's very clear and we don't forget to actually take that action at the end of the meeting.
So whatever you spoke quickly right now, it is all in the report, right?
Yeah, it'll be in the recommendation language. You need to update it because we're going to direct the city clerk to file the map with our ROV. So we will do that language.
And Chair Marashi, instead of calling it call to action, because that's not usually what we put it, you could put commission recommendation at the top and then just cut and paste what's in the RTC, or I'm sorry, the staff report, the PDF document. I mean, the document that Liz put together.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you. And with that, we can end the presentation, right? Okay.
Yeah, once they adopt it, you're done.
Okay. Now the last question here for the commissioners, is there anyone of you who wants to present part of the presentation or want to present anything in this presentation? If yes, we can do that. Yes, Commissioner Morris.
Yeah, I would have loved to, but unfortunately, I'm actually traveling on that day. So I tried to push my ticket out, but that was the only day I got to travel. So March 22nd, I'll be out by 10 in the morning. I'm traveling to India. So I'm sorry. I'm really sorry I can't attend the meeting.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to make sure that everyone is getting a platform.
I mean, not even virtually. I'm saying that, all the other meetings, I attended 2 meetings from India already. But this one is, I'm stuck. I'm on the air. So
okay.
I can't attend the meeting virtually. So I'm sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. Commissioner Baldwin?
I have no desire to do a presentation, but okay. If we're not violating the Brown Act, I would like to submit some recommendations for considerations for wording for why, when you discuss why we changed the boundaries to what we changed, I would like to provide some recommendations for you to consider. I don't, whether you adopt them or not is secondary, but the question on the table is, at the end of this meeting, are we still under the Brown Act or are we free of that restriction?
No, you're not free. You're still.
Yeah. Well, then, if I then provide comments directly to Shariti, will that be a violation of the Brown Act?
Potentially, if she gets more than a quorum of you. So it might make sense if you want to create a small subcommittee to finalize the presentation. And if, Commissioner Baldwin and another commissioner were interested in helping out to finalize, to give you more comments.
I was going to suggest the same thing. I think that helps untie Chair Marashi's hands as she's preparing the slides. So it would just be it wouldn't hurt to create a subcommittee, and then 3 of you, if you decide you don't want to meet, then don't meet. If you wanted to meet, then you meet and everything's still fine. So I think that might be something to consider as a group.
Okay, sounds good. So basically, if no other commissioner shows interest, basically me and Commissioner Baldwin can form a subcommittee and finalize that slide, right?
Yep.
Okay.
As long as it's any number less than 4.
Yeah.
So you get 2, 3, just one of you, either way.
I would be interested in participating in the presentation part of it. I mean, in preparing the presentation, I mean, suggestion.
Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
more than happy to.
So we have 3 people in the subcommittee. We have 1 spot if anyone is interested.
That's it. No, you want less than 4. You want less than 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the chance is gone. Well, but if we have
Liz, do they need to take a motion to create that subcommittee, or is it just by consensus?
I mean, we can take a motion, either, you know, they can informally form this subcommittee and make sure they don't discuss it with any other commissioners, or we can actually just take action to formally set this subcommittee. You want to just make a motion just to make sure it's clear?
Well, for a change, I'd like to do something informally. This is within the limits legally.
Yeah, I mean, you can informally form the subcommittee and then just make sure that, you know,
Okay.
no other further discussions.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, fantastic. I think I can stop sharing now. Well, if any comments, last call for any comments from the commissioners or for the public, members of the public. If not, Commissioner Baldwin?
One more question for the city staff. Do you do a post-mortem or after action review kind on this process? And if so, do you want us as commissioners to submit, you know, what went well, what went bad, and, you know, recommendations for 10 years from now? Or do you do anything like that, or is that something outside your process?
We did talk about a party, but I don't think that's what you're referring to.
No, not really a party. I'm talking about, you
I know.
what went bad, and, you know,
I mean,
put in the file.
we certainly welcome feedback, and maybe none of us will be involved in that, but I think
Right.
the feedback that you give us will not just be even about the Independent Redistricting Commission, but about participating in a commission as well. That's really helpful for us. So we would welcome it. I don't think there's any issue with you directly communicating with staff about that.
Mhm.
We can, at the end of all of this, prompt you all and email you as to individually share that feedback with us. That would be incredibly welcome.
It's welcome, but it's not a standard process.
It's not a standard process, but I think you bring up a good point. And what is the forum to share that collective feedback? Because the next time, you're right, it's 10 years, and who knows who of us is going to be, you know, involved in that process 10 years from now. I would offer, so in regular council meetings, at the end of a council meeting, there are reports of council members and staff. And I would offer that if the commissioners want to provide feedback in the form of like a postmortem type of style, I can collect that feedback and share it in a subsequent council meeting as part of reports from staff as the city clerk staff member. I can share that and say, hey, you know, commissioners shared their experience. Here's kind of a summary, what went well, what could be improved. You can speak to it as a general like participation in the city commission. You can also speak to it with specificity to the redistricting process in general or in specific. I don't know, Liz, I think that would probably be the most appropriate forum for me to share that, because there's not going to be another commission meeting and there's not going to be an agendized item in a council meeting for feedback or postmortem topic, but I could offer that as part of a staff report.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and there'll be a record of it in the future. Because I was thinking, we'll have a redistricting folder somewhere, but 10 years from now, if someone's gonna, you know, be able to dig that up, it'll be interesting. So yeah, so I think that's probably the best way. And especially, I don't know if the feedback is just on redistricting or if it's just on general commission matters. I think any feedback is always useful.
So I guess just maybe then to your question, Commissioner Baldwin, if any commissioner wants to share feedback, you can share it with staff. and we'll take it. If you want us to read it verbatim, happy to do that. If you want us to just synthesize the feedback and share it as a summary from the collective, I'm happy to do that too. So I'm at your service. Whatever you guys would like to do, we'll accommodate it. And I don't know which city council meeting I'll share it. Maybe it'll be one after the 22nd. But I'm offering that if you want to share that to the council.
If you see value in that, fine. But what I was really thinking of is something in the file for 10 years from now. The commission that forms then can review, what was done, how to do it better, and learn from that. Not so much for the city council itself, but if you think there's value in that, fine. But I was thinking more for whoever takes our spots 10 years from now.
So actually, we are supposed to keep our redistricting website up for 10 years. So depending on what that information is, I mean, it might be useful if it's useful to post on our redistricting website, but we have a redistricting website that kind of shows everything that we've done, and it needs to be available for the public to view for the next 10 years. I don't know if it's going to be valuable to put it on there, but
so we could do that, Liz, where we could just say, hey, all commissioners, any suggestions that you have for the next cohort in 10 years from now, email them in. We'll just copy them verbatim, right? We're not going to modify anybody's words. We'll copy them verbatim as commissioners. Each of you have an opinion on what went well and what could be improved. We'll copy them verbatim, just PDF it and throw it on the website. I don't see a problem with that. It's not really discussion on an item. It's just you're giving feedback and we'll publish it.
Yeah.
I think Commissioner Baldwin brought up a great point, and I feel this is definitely valuable. Any kind of feedback is always valuable to improve any process. So I love that. Well, since Dr. Gobole?
Typically, jurisdictions like yours keep a file, electronic and hard copy, so that in 10 years, city staff members, whoever they are, can say, oh, here's all this valuable advice from last time. And that's what happened this time too. We started off with your records of what happened in 2018 and before that. So I would recommend it not be posted on the website, but rather just be kept part of the city's internal files to help with planning the next time.
Actually, since Dr. Gopali spoke, actually we should also take feedback from the demographers, because they get to witness this process for different cities. So to get an idea about how our city performed and what went wrong or what could have been better, it will be a great feedback for the next commission.
Sure, and for the city too, not just the commission process. Yes, okay, we'll do that.
Yeah, sounds good. Reena, I see your hand.
Yeah, and I'm sure Hossam might echo this. You all were really fabulous commissioners, and you had a steep learning curve, learning things like the Brown Act and serial meetings and Robert's Rules of Order, and I would hate for this information to not go used again. So I would highly welcome all of you to participate in future opportunities to be part of other commissions, committees that the city has. You all were wonderful contributors. The city has different selection processes. Yours was very unique, like random draw through those balls. If we go back to the very first
game show
meeting.
Host.
Yeah, game show. That was a very interesting process, right? That's very unique to this particular commission. But, I would certainly, welcome all of you to use the skills that you've learned here and continue to contribute and utilize your voice as residents of Santa Clara with the many other opportunities that I know we have for your participation. Oh, and one other thing, we did promise a celebration. I don't know, Elizabeth and I were looking at some dates. Friday, April 29th was a date that came to mind for a few reasons. We will send you an email trying to solidify a date, time, location. You don't need to respond on the April 29th right now. That's just, something to put in your head is a date that we're probably going to throw out so that we can find an opportunity to just celebrate all the work that's been done.
Fantastic. Thank you, Reena. And I hope I'm not asking too much if I ask you to give us 2 or 3 options for the dates.
Sure, absolutely.
Make sure that most of the commissioners are present that day.
Yeah, we will strive for 100% attendance of people who want to attend.
Fantastic. Well, our meeting is now coming to an end. And as a reminder, public outreach regarding redistricting and this commission, as well as information on all IRC meetings, has been notified to the public in many venues, and community engagement on this topic is welcome and encouraged. Meeting information will continue to be sent during this process, which has basically ended, through Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, and Instagram. Meeting agendas are posted to the city's meeting page in advance of the meeting, as well as previous IRC meetings and presentations are available on the city's meeting page, which is www.santaclara.registrar.com. Well, before we adjourn the meeting, I'd like to congratulate everyone and thank everyone for their efforts and time during this process. So kudos to all of us. And with that, I would like to ask commissioners, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting, Commissioner Morris.
Thank you, Commissioner Morris, for the motion. Do I have a seconder for this motion?
Commissioner Acker seconds.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Acker, for the second. And if you have no objections to this motion, I will now adjourn this meeting. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful
Great
job. Wonderful job.